What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Casters of Horror. I'm Chris Mess.
I'm Shane, and this week we're breaking down Bones and All.
Munch.
Yeah.
Munch.
Yeah.
It's one of those films that just makes you hungry.
Yes.
So,
And that apparently some people did classify as a horror movie.
we'll get a little bit more into that here in a little bit. But first off, we got a little bit of movie news. This week, Bloody Disgusting put out their top 15 horror films of 2022.
Okay.
You and I had talked about doing something like that, but guess what? We didn't.
No.
Some of the movies that we've gone over on this show have been on there, such as Hellraiser. Let's see, what else was on there? Bones and All, maybe? Pearl X? Maybe a few others that we've gone over, but check it out. It's over on bloodydisgusting.com. If you guys want to check it out, let us know in the comments below what you guys think of this list. If you agree or disagree, I'm not going to tell you what number one is. Let us know what you guys think. Oh, Deadstream was on there too.
Good. Should be.
So, as it should be. That was a great film. There's a few on there that I still want to check out myself, but
I'm looking at the list now. I personally would not rate X above Pearl. I actually liked Pearl better, but
yeah,
maybe X is more of a horror movie, I guess, but
I think it's a little bit more, but number one, I find a little controversial, but
I am not surprised by their number one pick.
And like I was going to say, I'm not surprised by it. However, I find it a little controversial myself.
Oh, yes.
So anyway, let us know what you guys think. And while you're down there in the comments, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And, might as well hit the share button while you're there too.
Yeah.
Share this with your friends, your family, your enemies. Those people that you just spent a lot of time with around the holidays. So, how was your holiday, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Speaking of holidays, Screambox put out a Yule log video. So if you guys are still in the holiday mood of having that, the fireplace crackling and whatnot, the people that we've talked about several times, Screambox, the company who put out Terrifier 2, for all of us to see. They have a Yule log that is Art the Clown. The mural from the Clown Cafe with the raging fire in front of him while playing the Clown Cafe theme for an hour.
Of course.
So, it's not necessarily in the holiday spirit, but if you still are feeling the cold winter air touching your nether bits, you guys can put this thing on and see how it diddles your chestnuts. So
and go watch this, right? Turn it on so it gets the views, and maybe, just maybe, we will push them towards a Christmas special someday, which I'm advocating for.
An Art the Clown Christmas special.
Yeah.
I would love that.
I saw on Twitter. I know we both saw how he said he was going to be really ramping up the creepy factor in Terrifier 3.
Yeah,
man, that sounds good to me. Because I'm like, okay, you take a movie. I really liked Terrifier 2, even though it's in a genre that I don't like. So now, if you take that and move it closer to a genre that I do like, wow.
What, Christmas musical?
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go.
Christmas musical, Art the Clown. And I would love for him to have a whole solo where it's just him going.
Yeah. But no, I think like
the whole song, and it's just him like dancing around, but there's no vocals. That would be great.
I never saw the original short film. I haven't watched that yet for Terrifier, but
yeah.
I would argue like Terrifier 2, it's not really scary. It's disturbing. but it's not scary.
It depends.
It depends on what.
It depends on how immersed you are into this world.
Yeah.
I think maybe you and I are a little desensitized to most things at this point.
Yeah. Well, and I think for the most part, and again, maybe this just has to do with, again, being not my favorite genre. I just don't generally find stuff like this to be scary,
Yeah.
But if they can really ramp up that creepy factor, then
yeah,
man, that could be a top tier movie for me.
Yeah. Well, you also live in Indiana, so
creepy enough.
Creepy enough. Speaking of creepy enough, we got the first official full-length trailer for Knock at the Cabin, the new M. Night Shyamalan film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It looks good. I did not watch his last film, Old.
Yeah,
I haven't watched it yet. I don't know. I was kind of thinking that the movie would, switch up halfway through the trailer.
Oh.
He'd Shyamalan all of us. But did you have any take on this? I mean, it looks good enough.
Mm-hmm.
It looks compelling, yet I don't see how you could get a full 2 hours out of it.
Yeah. So first of all, the casting is great.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we got Dave Bautista, right?
Yeah. Ron Weasley.
And then Ron Weasley. What is that dude's name? I can't even.
Rupert Grint.
Yeah, Rupert Grint. So yeah, casting is good. Here's what I wanted to ask you about this, Chris. I've been looking forward to this movie.
Yeah.
Did you know that it's based on a novel?
I did not.
Yeah. A lot of people don't because they seem to be intentionally not mentioning that.
Oh, was it Twilight?
No.
Like every other film seems to be lately.
It's based on a book with a much better name called The Cabin at the End of the World.
See, that would make more sense.
Yeah. By Paul Tremblay. I really, really liked the novel. It's a slow burn, but... And so I think
you read the book.
Oh yeah, I've read the book. I've read several of this guy's books, and another one of his is being made into a movie too. And yeah, I think they can be slow burns, and I think that's how it's going to work as a movie. So yeah, I know the plot, assuming Shyamalan doesn't Shyamalan it.
Yeah.
My big issue though is. All mentions you see of it being based on a novel by Paul Tremblay are by fans of the novel, editing the posters, or mentioning it in tweets and stuff. So it's like,
yeah.
Now, this is not an original story. This is pretty based on the novel, and the casting is pretty spot on from the novel. So.
Now, I have not met Shyamalan myself. But I assume the guy is, what's the word? It rhymes with narcissistic. Yeah, I can't. It doesn't come to me.
No.
So I would assume that his wanting to share any form of the gusto or the glory, is not quite his style.
I find it weird. The book won the Bram Stoker Award in 2019.
Okay.
Right. So and Paul Tremblay is a pretty well known author in this space. So I don't know. To me, it's just weird that it's not being mentioned.
Yeah,
in any of the promotional material.
No, I would have had no clue.
Yeah,
no clue.
So I don't like the title of the movie. I think the title of the movie is generic, but I also think it probably makes sense for being a movie.
Well, I think maybe in that aspect though too. He was trying to Shyamalan right out the gate.
Yeah.
The Knock at the Cabin, you're like, oh, what is this about? Maybe it's going to be like The Strangers or something,
Yeah.
Like an abduction thing and now it's this whole supernatural, the world is going to end unless you make decisions.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't checked out the trailer yourself, go ahead and check it out. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can go ahead and watch the Screambox Yule thing while you're there.
That's right.
That's on YouTube also. So, anyway,
then you can go down and like and subscribe and comment
like
on
and
these
subscribe
videos.
our show. Why
Right.
not? Why not? Because we've got several of them on there now. We got a lot of reviews. We've watched a bunch of movies now. We're almost at it. We could almost fill an egg crate with how many we have. So anyway, yeah. Well, are we ready to jump into this week's film? I'm going to say film. I'll just say film.
Film. Yes.
And it won't even be creepy. We probably won't even have that boom music go on. This week's film is Bones and All. I'm not even going to go creepy with it. No, it's we're going to talk about Bones and All. No, I might even have little chimes. Come up.
Well, it's funny because some outlets do tag it as horror, which is fine. I get why they do, but like just as many tag it as like a romantic drama. I would call it a romantic monster road trip movie.
I would say it's a romantic drama with some gore elements.
Yeah.
But anyway, before we spoil too much about our thoughts, this is a full spoiler review. As we do every week, we break down the movie scene by scene, telling you the things that we liked, we didn't like, and things that, as people who don't direct a lot of things, or at least things that are put out by studios, we tell you what we would have done. So we are armchair directors.
That's right.
So
we have directed many an armchair.
I've directed it with the footrest up and the footrest down. Right. So anyway, this film again is called Bones and All. It was directed by Luca Guadagnino. Guadagnino. That's it. Luca Guadagnino. He is an Italian director. He is known for Call Me By Your Name, which also starred Timothée Chalamet. Suspiria, the remake that came out a few years back. A Bigger Splash and I Am Love. He also did a couple other films as well, but those are the ones he's most notable for. This is based on a novel by Camille DeAngelis and M. Night Shyamalan. Because why not? He's just going to throw his name on everything.
Yeah.
Are you ready to jump into this, sir?
Yeah, man. Let's talk.
Okay. First off, through the credits, it just starts off with a bunch of watercolor paintings of landscape. Does that play into the rest of the film? Yeah, kind of. But does it have any bearing on it? No.
There's one of the paintings is just landscape. All the other ones are landscapes with power lines. I'm like, is this going to be relevant? What? There's a lot of power lines here.
Yes, the power line from the Goofy movie makes an appearance. Later on, he does do some of his musical numbers, which is awesome because we haven't heard from him since the 90s.
I know that's a weird thing to bring up, but I honestly thought it might play into the movie somehow. All these power lines being depicted, but
I mean, you see quite a few.
Oh, you're right. They exist in the movie, so I guess
they exist in the movie. Okay. So anyway, wow, we're already off to a good start.
Yeah.
It starts off, you see a high school. Seems to be a fairly dated high school. The movie has a bunch of scenes where we see kids walking around, leaving school and all this sort of stuff. And then it focuses on an empty high school auditorium with a young girl playing a piano on the stage. The young girl, we later find out her name is Marin, which I thought was May for a long time, but I guess it's Marin. Played by Taylor Russell. She was in the Netflix show Lost in Space. She was also in Escape Room. I believe Escape Room 2 also. And Words on Bathroom Stalls, as well as some other films. A friend of hers comes in and asks if she wants to come over for a party that night. Her parents are going to be gone. And we find out that Marin's new at the school. She's recently moved there. She says that I don't think my dad will let me. So, she can't make it out there. So you're like, whoa, what's up with dad?
Yeah. This
And
is
the
all.
girl's like,
We do note though, too, that this takes place in Virginia, right? We do get a little title card VA.
oh, do we?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay.
And I only bring that up because not specifically Virginia, but just the fact that this is taking place, in a specific place.
Okay.
Right now, anyway.
Later on, I have it where I bring something up about that.
Okay.
But I guess I didn't catch this first one.
Well, it's in very, very transparent text. It's like huge letters, but very transparent text. So
yeah, that could be why I didn't catch it on the very, very first one.
Yeah.
Just so people are aware of this film is a very try to be A24. Without
sure.
being A24. You're going to see a lot of the A24, I don't want to say tropes, but the things that make A24 artsy. You see the big lettering, the bold lettering,
even the
title stuff.
Even the camera shot, that it starts, it's like looking out at the grounds of the school, and then suddenly the camera turns real quick into the auditorium you were just talking about, and I'm like, oh, well, that's a
yeah. So
that's an artsy shot.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of, and like I said, it's one of those films that's trying to be A24 without actually being A24.
Oh yeah.
So, but I mean, that's not a horrible thing. It's just
not at all.
When you get too many of these that are trying to be something else, it's just, oh well. Anyway, so the friend is telling Marin that why don't you just sneak out? Sneak out when your dad's asleep or whatever. Yeah. So the dad comes to pick her up. He's like, why don't you drive? So we're assuming at this point the girl's fairly young. We assume.
Oh, yeah.
No, we don't know how old she is, but he's like, why don't you drive? So like he's teaching her how to drive, okay? Yeah. Her and her dad live in a trailer park. It's fairly run down. We see a young Rudy Giuliani on TV. So we know that it's not present day.
Oh, really? I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, it's a young Rudy Giuliani.
I recognized the voice, but I didn't see. So I'm like, who is that? I couldn't.
Yeah, with hair.
Okay. So I guess then
we're knowing it's at least about 20 years ago.
Okay, so then that would establish the time frame, because obviously as the film progresses, this is obviously not present day.
Yeah, we're looking at probably late 90s, maybe early 2000s, at least 20 years ago.
Given the prevalence of the cassette tape deck, I would put it even earlier than that. But I don't know,
maybe. I would say probably in the 90s.
Maybe
I would fit it in the 90s, somewhere in there. Because I mean, I was still rocking a cassette player back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
I mean, my first car had a cassette player. I switched it over to a CD player.
Oh, yeah?
Myself, yeah. So, yeah, good old Geo Tracker. Some good memories made in that car. As in the Kevin Smith thing where he's like, yeah, he did her in an uncomfortable place. And they're like, what, a backseat of a Volkswagen?
Jeez.
Yeah. And that was the running joke for Mallrats. Anyway, dad is sleeping on the couch. Marin has the bedroom of the trailer. She tells her dad goodnight, and he, from the outside, locks her in her bedroom.
Yeah.
She has stolen a screwdriver from the living room before she goes into her bedroom without her dad. I have something either in my eye or something. I've been playing with it like the whole thing. It's going to be something this week. I'll probably end up sneezing by the time this thing's over. She then proceeds to unscrew her the screen of her window, or the window itself. She unscrews something to open the window.
Yeah.
So it appears that somebody has taken the time to make sure she can't get out.
Yeah.
She then proceeds to walk to her friend's house,
which
the friend had told her, follow the power lines.
Follow the power lines up the hill. Yeah.
And I'm at the end of it. So there's your power line.
She leaves the window open and her bedroom light on. Yeah. And I'm like,
yeah,
if you're gonna,
if you're gonna sneak out, at least turn off your bedroom window.
Yeah.
And turn off your bedroom window.
Oh, yeah.
Do that.
I didn't even catch that.
Turn off that bedroom window. Leave that light open.
Yeah.
So she sneaks out, goes to the friend's house. She then proceeds to lay on the floor under a glass coffee table with her friend, and they're talking about life.
Yeah.
It's like, because they're getting to know each other, and there's other girls on the couch. They're doing their fingernails and whatnot,
and they're getting awfully close. And
the girls on the floor are getting very close.
They both kind of give vibes that they like really want to get to know each other.
Yeah. They were wondering what that carpet tasted like there on the floor.
Yeah.
Floor. Anyway, Marin says that her mom isn't in the picture anymore. She has no memories of her mom whatsoever.
Right.
And then she appears to be like sniffing her friend. Like she's getting in close, like
deep breaths.
And you're just like, whoa, this is going to take a turn that I might enjoy. Then the girl reaches up, the girl on the couch, like puts fingernail polish on her hands, the friend does, and she brings it down and shows Marin. She's like, what do you think of this? And puts her hand like right in Marin's face to show her the fingernail polish. Well, Marin grabs her hand and then proceeds to bite her friend's finger off. I mean, a little bit hanging on.
I mean, the bone is still there, but she like rips off.
It's pretty much hanging by the skin, though.
Yeah.
I mean, So there's one of our horror elements, or our gore elements. So the girls, of course, freak out. Marin runs out the front door and stumbles home in the dark. She starts banging on the door to the trailer.
Yeah.
The dad opens the door. He wakes up off the couch, opens up the door, and he's like, you didn't.
Yeah.
Like, so obviously he knows, what she's capable of, as if the lock and the screws in the window didn't tell us that before.
Yeah.
He then tells Marin, grab your stuff. We have 3 minutes to pack before the cops start showing up. So
it's interesting too, because like
they've moved a lot.
They've done this before. And when he first goes in and locks her door from the outside, it's like, okay, creepy dad. And then at this point, it's like, oh no, he knew what he was doing. So
he caged the animal.
Yeah.
At this point, then we see a big MD flash up on the screen. I was like, what does this mean? Are we talking about Maryland?
Yes.
A doctor? Is it a doctor? But
we're in Maryland, and we also see the word May, so maybe that's why you thought that was her name.
I mean, I thought the dad called her May before, and he could have. It could be a pet name.
Oh, yeah.
Her name's Marin. However, we had not established at this point yet that her name was Marin.
Right.
And to have somebody call her a pet name beforehand, kind of throws you off, especially if you're taking notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now here's what's weird to me. Okay, now we're in May.
Mm-hmm.
This scene becomes very fetishized for me.
Yes.
This next scene.
Yeah.
She is wearing an undershirt with nothing under it. You're seeing very much nipples and butt and her underwear through her pants, and she's on the toilet, and you're seeing her from the side. And I'm like, isn't she a high school student?
Yeah.
This is very...
And she does claim
creepy.
later to be 18. Yeah,
but we do find out that she's later. Yeah. Yes, that she is 18. But to me, I'm like, okay, we're. But
yeah. I even put in my notes. This seems like an unnecessary shot.
And see, that's why I wanted to bring this up.
Yeah,
it was very. I was like, isn't she underage at this point? And then I'm like, the director's Italian, and not in the hey, come to Olive Garden Italian. I'm talking, or like New York Italian. This is very much Fellini yourself Italian. So she goes to look for her dad. She's like, Dad, blah, blah, blah. And she sees that stuff's like folded up. There's a bag there. The car's gone. It looks like he's outie. He's left an envelope and a note or in a cassette tape for her as a note. And he's left her some money. She plays the tape and he's like, baby, you're not going to see me again.
Yeah.
I can't help you no more. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, Dad's gone. Yeah. So that's why I didn't IMDb him. Yep. That's it. Yeah. He's like, I can't help you anymore. I'm going to tell you everything I know.
Yeah.
Like he's never told her any of the stories about her life.
And he tells her to destroy the tape because it's evidence.
It's evidence. It's incriminating. And not only does it incriminate her, it incriminates himself.
Yeah.
Get rid of the tape. So he says the first time that this happened was when you were 3 years old. She shuts off the tape immediately and starts crying.
Yeah.
Now you're hitting your microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
It was me last week. Next thing we see is she's at a bus station. She's buying a ticket as far as she can get from where she's at. She wants to get to a certain place. She's leaving Maryland. I forgot where she's trying to get to.
I don't remember, but it's
she's only got enough money to get to Ohio.
He left her, in addition to the cash, he left her a birth certificate.
Yeah, and which has her mother's name on it as well.
Right, and it's her. Is it her mother's? Is it her birth certificate?
It's her birth certificate.
Okay.
Because it proves that she's the age that she is.
Oh, that's right. And that's what she uses to buy the bus ticket. Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think she's trying to get to the place of her birth that's on her birth certificate. Yes. Or either that or the place listed for her as her mother's hometown or something. But she can't get that far.
Yeah, she's found something having to do with her mother, and she's trying to get to there, but she only has enough money to get to Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
She buys the ticket. There's a whole thing with that. And then she proceeds to listen to the cassette tape on the bus. Her dad says that she ate her nanny when she was 3 years old.
Yeah. Because he's like, she had blood on her neck or something. So she's like, I assume she was holding you.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. And he went ahead and buried the nanny and they left.
Yeah.
He said it had stopped for a long time, but you got clever.
Yeah.
And she shuts the tape off again. Next thing we see, or we assume, because she does have three layovers in three different, or two or three layovers in different towns while she's on the bus. She arrives at her first layover, and she proceeds to lay down on a bench, like she's going to try to sleep, or she at least tries to read. Then it starts raining. She sees an old man walking down the street towards her, and she kind of hides from him. He basically says, hello. He says, I've been looking for you.
Yeah.
I smell you, and you probably smell me too.
Yeah. He's like, he says, when's the last time you fed?
When's the last time you fed?
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. We come to find out that this older man is also an eater, as he calls himself.
He calls him,
his name is Sully. He's played by Sir Mark Rylance. He was in the film Don't Look Up, with also had Timothée Chalamet, Ready Player One, Dunkirk, and Bridge of Spies, as well as many, many other films.
Yeah, and so I recognized him, but I couldn't like place him in anything.
Oh man, he was so great in Don't Look Up. You saw Don't Look Up, right?
I did. I thought that was a mostly forgettable movie, but
he was the Elon Musk type character.
Oh, okay.
He was like the eccentric old man who's like, I don't know what's going on half the time, and cell phones are going to take over the world, you know. And for him being a British actor, his southern quirky accent I love it, man. It reminds me of the gopher from Winnie the Pooh. Where it's like, so this one, you know, and he has that like little whistle going. Yeah. Anyway, great actor. He's very, very eccentric, talking about how people mostly avoid them because they're weird. But he's like, come with me, come on. And after he says that he could tell that she's hungry, and he goes, I have rules. Number one, never eat an eater.
Yeah.
And he goes, I fixed us some dinner. I could smell you. And it was from a long ways away, too, where he was at. She goes into the house. She said that she thought that she was the only one that was like her, and asked if there was others like them. And that he says that most have a tendency to steer clear of other ones who are like them because of their tendencies.
Yeah. He says that there's not a lot of them, but like enough of them, basically. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah. There must be plenty enough that we find
a few.
Yeah, we get a whole bunch during the movie. So
yeah. So when he said that he had prepared dinner, or he had dinner for him, he starts making 2 Cornish game hens.
Yeah,
which I found super odd. I was like, okay. And he's like, well, I thought you might be hungry. And she goes, for hens? And he goes, no.
And he does say he found them in the freezer.
Yeah, he found them in the freezer. So, yeah. And then she proceeds to go, well, who lives here? And he's like, go look. Use your nose. What do you smell? And she starts describing everything that she's smelling. Well, we find out after they go upstairs together that there is an old woman laying on the floor, still alive, but she can't move.
Yeah. She's struggling to breathe. And
she's on the verge of dying. Yeah. He said he found her that way this morning. And this is kind of his MO. This is the way that he feeds. He doesn't like to kill people.
Yeah. And he says, I don't kill people. At least I try not to.
Yeah. So he's kind of a vulture in the way of, he'll wait till the moment that they die. He can tell when they're about to die.
Yeah.
And then once they do pass, then he's on.
Yeah. And he tells her, you'll know when she goes.
Yeah. You'll know when she goes. The smell will change. She's like, no, we can't do this. And he goes, we have to do whatever. We have needs. We need to be fed. We have to do whatever we can.
Yeah.
And he says, if the circumstances are safe and good, he says, then that's the only point where he'll eat, basically. Yeah. The next morning, the lady dies. Marin smells, I called her May. Marin smells the change, and she comes out of the room that she was sleeping in, and Sully's eating the old lady in his tidy whities.
Yeah.
Butt and balls right to the camera. And Marin just joins him. So she goes down and starts eating as well.
This is arguably, to me, maybe the closest this gets to horror. And they don't really even show much. Right? Because it just pans. You see the old photographs and all that. But the sounds, man.
Yeah, the sounds
are pretty and gurgling, and it's like,
slurping, gurgling. Old man taint. It's all there. Sully then proceeds to show Marin a rope that he's made of hair from everyone that he has eaten.
Yeah, to remember them by.
Yeah, to remember them. We find out that his first feeding was his grandfather, and he's been on ever since that point. I mean, his grandfather had passed. And he went ahead and ate the grandfather, and his mother covered for him, saying it was wolves and all this. But she kicked him out of the house basically at that point, and he's been on his own ever since. And he says, "Well, you can bum around with me as long as you'd like." And she goes, "Well, I'm looking for someone." He goes, "Your mama." "Yeah, I know." He goes, and he's like, why don't you go clean up before we dry to these seats, because they're covered in blood, both. She then gets showered, proceeds to run to catch the bus that she, had the layover from, and Sully standing there watching her leave town.
Yeah, creepy.
Very creepy. Very creepy. He's just standing there, just staring.
Yeah.
So you can tell he's sullen. Sully is sullen. She then listens to the cassette tape again, find out that her next victim was a boy at camp who had gone missing.
Yeah.
He had a tent down by the water that
and Dad's like, I knew I shouldn't have sent you to camp, but
and when she came back, she had no remorse whatsoever. And he says, "But I still loved you." He said, "But you had no remorse, and that's why I had to say no to things." Next thing we see is the big words IN, standing for good old Indiana.
That's right. She's Indiana now.
Indiana. Indiana's not that big. Have you been to this drugstore? So she proceeds to go to a drugstore. She starts shoplifting for necessities. Like toothpaste, lady plugs, whatnot. That's what they're called, right? And then there's this guy. You can tell he's kind of a drunkard, loud a-hole. He starts harassing this lady in the store because she almost bumped into him into him with her cart. She has a little baby with her. Marin kind of confronts the guy quietly. She's like, hey, like, calm down type thing. And then all of a sudden this young guy from behind her yells out. He's like, "Yo, hey, something or other, asshole type thing." And like picks a fight with him, and like, "Why don't we take this outside?" Type situation. And you're like, okay, what's going to happen here? It is Timothy Chalamet. He plays Lee. Timothy Chalamet, of course, from Dune, Don't Look Up, Lady Bird, Call Me By Your Name, The French Dispatch, and he will be the new Willy Wonka in the film Wonka, which I'm excited to see.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
The dude is crazy, man. Great actor, but the guy's like unhinged. So Marin then leaves the store. Now it's like evening. It's dusk in a way. And she sees Lee coming out of this abandoned building close by the store. And he starts washing blood off. So you can tell he is partaken of this man. He broke his bread, if you will. Take this bread. It is my flesh.
He just looks up at her and he's like, "He's over there if you want any."
Yeah. Because he can tell, he knew that she was an eater in the store. So they have this conversation about, how, like she's just getting used to all of this type stuff. And she's like, "Can you help me?" And she's like, "I won't mess with you. I don't want to hurt anybody." And he says famous last words. So he offers her a ride.
And like she mentions to him that she's new at this. And he says that no one our age is new at this. And so this is kind of one of the weird disconnects I had, is like, how does she not remember all the times she's done this?
I don't think it was a matter of not remembering eating the people necessarily, as much as what goes into it and how these become, basically how to deal with it all.
Okay. Because I guess she never really did have to deal with the aftermath because her dad always cleaned up.
Her dad always cleaned up after her. Yeah. And I mean, if she was young when she went to, I mean, I can imagine that she remembers at least the camp one.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think so.
But if it became this thing where it was so often that it happened, or, you know, sometimes with like PTSD.
Yeah.
You know, some people have a tendency to shut off those parts of their life.
Yeah, but I don't
create personalities based on. I don't know anything about that.
That would track with her dad saying that she showed no remorse.
No,
so I almost wonder if it's like, I mean, you and I don't remember every meal we've ever eaten, you know, so it's just perfectly natural for her. And because she didn't really have to deal with any of the cleanup, it's just not something that's stuck in her head, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe. I took it as more so she's getting used to this new life of this is a commonplace type thing and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So she ends up, he basically is like, fine, yeah, you can ride with me. So they get into his truck. They drive to the victim's house. He's taken the contents of his wallet, figured out where he lived, but he also kind of was like, yeah, I didn't see anything about, you know, there was no pictures of family. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring. I assume, you know, he's alone. So they drive to the victim's house. No one else is there. No one lives there, appears, besides the guy. Lee sees a Kiss poster and he's like, oh man, I love this album. Lick It Up. Yeah. Which I thought was ironic. Lick It Up. Considering how he just licked the guy up. He looks for the vinyl, puts it on, dances very, very weirdly. Then he's like, I'm going to go take a shower. She lays down on a bed and she dreams of her dad. Her dad then says they're at like a diner or something like that. And he's like, it's your birthday, baby. He goes, I've been waiting for this day a long time. So you can kind of tell he's like, oh, she's 18 now. I'm dipping out. Like, I'm not sticking around.
I didn't even catch that. That's a good point. Yeah.
Because he's just like, I've been waiting for this day a long time. Now he's like, I'm free. Yay.
Yep. I didn't even piece that together. That's a good point.
Next thing we see, Marin and Lee are having breakfast at a diner. She's hungry. They're both hungry. They're always just hungry in this movie. They're always eating something and not necessarily people. They're just eating.
Yeah.
We find out Lee doesn't have all the same skills as Sully as far as like smelling from like long ways away and all that kind of stuff. But then they're talking about feeding and all this, and they're talking not quietly.
No.
There's a little girl at the table next to them, and she's kind of overhearing and keeps like looking over and Lee's like, I got to go use the bathroom, and he takes off, and Marin looks over at the little girl and just like, just makes and the little girl freaks out, and Marin's just kind of having fun with it.
I did note that too, though. It's like they're not really being quiet about this. That's
not at all.
And this is one of those restaurants, one of those diners where the tables are super close together.
Yeah,
I mean, they're practically sitting right next to this little girl.
Not far. I mean, maybe you've got that space where you can get between.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Where all the fat people are having to sit in the chairs on the outside of the booth because they can't even make it in to the side. Yeah, it's like that. So they're heading to Kentucky at this point. He's promised that he's going to teach his little sister to drive. So we found out that he has a sister. They end up staying at his aunt's place, who I believe had died.
Yeah, he says that. Okay. He says that she died like back in March, I think is what he said.
And what's funny is I was trying to catch the exact words. I heard that back in something, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So she's died. They're staying at her place. He says, I got to be careful. Nobody in town can see me.
Yeah.
he doesn't want anybody to see him. And he's like, just keep the lights off and the door's locked. He's like, I'm going to go see my sister. So she stays there at the house. She starts looking through old pictures, sees Lee when he was younger, blah, blah, blah. Next thing we see, he does say that he'll bring back dinner as well. You're like, is he going to bring back a person? No, he actually brings back food. A lot of eating. I got really hungry while watching it.
I know, right?
So they're sitting there at dinner, and bang, 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 someone's banging on the door. And she's like, "You asshole, blah, 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 you, blah, 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 blah." We find out it's the sister, who's, I would say 15-ish, because she's just learning how to drive before she takes her test and all this. And she's like, I heard that you're leaving town and blah, blah, blah. Why are you leaving? Dad left, now you, and I don't understand why. And so obviously she does not know about his life. What he truly is and everything. He finally convinces her. He's like, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll be back. And then he tells Marion, let's just leave tonight. So they leave. But before they leave town, they break into a slaughterhouse he used to work at during the summers. And they're going to steal money from there.
Well, I like this because he's like the cafe. They keep their cash
petty
in
their
petty cash drawer, right? And she's like, they have a cafe at a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, like it's like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make it make sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, we have access to a slaughterhouse. Let's use it.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're like overlooking the stalls where all the cows are being held and or steer, I guess they would be. I don't know. And they're holding hands and
I'm like, wait, so they're in love already? Okay.
Yeah, we get this love scene.
I guess they're in love already.
And he goes, let's go look for your mom together. We'll just take our time. Let's take our time. We'll go find her and let's take our time.
Yeah.
See the the country basically. And then they like make love in a kill house. I don't know. They start making out.
Does it actually show them kissing? I couldn't remember.
I think they start kissing.
Okay. I wasn't sure if they did or if it like got close and then it just cut away.
Yeah. They may have just gotten close. I don't know. All I know is that it was like, okay, they're in love.
They're in love now already.
Next thing we see Mo show up on the screen. Mo.
Which I had
Missouri.
Which I had to look up and like
look up.
Is that? I think that's Missouri, but
it's been a while. Good old Ozarks. So they're in Missouri. They're giving loving glances in the car.
Yeah. This is the point where I said, I guess this is a romantic road trip movie now.
Yeah, because they're just traveling everywhere. And she's like, what was your first time like? And then he's like, it was my babysitter. And you're just like...
Yeah. She goes, me too.
She's
and I'm like,
me
Yay.
too. And you're just like, they're talking about eating. Yeah. He's like, she's like, what was it like for you? And he's like, it was a rush. It was like I could feel like all the veins in my body and all the. He goes, I could feel every blood vessel. He's like, it was like becoming a superhero.
Yeah.
And this is after they were making the loving glances while like at a swimming hole, and all at a river and all this sort of stuff. Next thing you know, two rednecks are pulling up in a truck. Good old Missouri boys.
Yep. Jake and Brad.
Man, I didn't even get their names. That's how much I was like.
That's Jake and Brad. Yeah, for you, this is just two normal dudes.
This is just two random dudes. This is my neighbors. The one guy says, "Yeah, we smelled you guys at the swimming hole."
Yeah, you were downwind.
No, we had seen you at the swimming hole, and then they basically were like, "Well, smelled you," type thing.
Yeah.
Then they're like, we kind of figured you guys might want some beers. And I'm like, these are the people from around.
Yeah.
We find out that they're like them, and they start sharing stories around the fire.
Yeah.
We find one of them. We find out one of them was a cop.
Yeah.
And he had stumbled upon what were their names?
So,
Jacob and Brad.
It's Jake and Brad. So So Brad was the cop.
Brad was the cop.
And
Jake was the
Jake is the eater. Yeah, Brad had... So basically the story is that Brad had caught Jake feeding.
Yep.
Basically. Feeding. And like...
and Brad just became curious.
Basically, yeah. Brad pulled a gun on him and then told him, like...
Brad was bite curious.
Yeah, he was bite curious.
So, he pulls a gun on Jake, and Jake's like, "You want some?"
Basically. And so he just goes and watches
like, "I'll get down on that."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so Brad's just a cannibal. Yeah. He's not an eater.
No. He doesn't do it because he has to. Because all these other ones, they have to. That's how they get,
He does it because he wants to.
Yeah, Brad is just... As Jake says, he's normal. Well, not normal.
Yeah, not normal. Yeah.
Normal about him.
And he says, but he hasn't had his full bones yet. And Chalamet, Lee, says full bones? Like he had never heard that term. Yeah. And Jake says, when you eat them, bones and all.
Oh, they said the name of the movie.
The film. Yeah. He's like, there's bones and all. And then after. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's such a rush and all this sort of stuff. And Marin gets upset at hearing all this about people choosing to eat people and all this. And she's just like, I can't. She runs off to the truck. Yeah. Locks herself in the truck.
She runs off when she finds out that Brad just does this because he wants to.
Yeah.
And then Lee...
she can't imagine just killing people to eat for the fun of it.
And then Lee runs off after hearing the whole bones and all thing. That creeps him out.
To a point. So Lee's still sitting there, and Jake tells Lee, he's like, "No, I can see it on you." He goes, "You're a junkie."
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's like, "You just wait."
Yeah.
You're just waiting. And he goes, "Maybe love will set you free."
Yeah.
Maybe love will set you free.
Because this is the point where Jake basically tells him that, like, he's like, you think you have this under the control, but like there's no such thing as having it under control.
Yeah. So Lee then takes off, goes to the truck.
Yeah. This is also, I would argue, probably the creepiest part of the film. This is deeply unsettling part of the film. Right? I mean, it's just the personalities of this Jake and Brad. You don't know what their motives are. And obviously, our two main characters don't really trust them. The music is very creepy in this moment.
At this point in the film, I really was going, okay, now the horror begins.
Yeah, now it's on. Now this is a horror film.
Now this is going to be a horror film because, it's creepy. There's two guys. They don't know who they are. Maybe these guys are going to chase them down type thing. Maybe we're getting to the point where this ramps up to become a horror film.
Yeah.
The rednecks are asleep.
Yeah.
Lee and Marin roll the truck quietly. No, they don't turn it on. They just roll it, not to wake them up. Jake wakes up, starts walking towards them. Mm-hmm. They see Jake coming, and she's like, go, 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 go. Turn on the truck. They take off.
Yep.
Not a horror movie.
Nope. That's the last you see of Jake, right? I mean, we don't see these two again.
No, we don't see Jake or Brad again.
Look, these two...
Spoiler, we don't see them again. This does not become a horror film.
Look, Marin and Lee don't have time for a horror film because they're right in the middle of their romantic road trip. So we got to get back to the romantic road trip.
Too much loving to have.
Yeah.
So next we see IA. We're in Iowa. We're in Iowa. Home of Slipknot. We see the fairgrounds. They're gonna go to the fair. Why not? They're holding hands. They start kissing on the merry-go-round or the carousel or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The thing that goes like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, carousel goes this way. Ferris wheel goes this way. Carousel. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, she lays her head on his shoulder and she's like, "I'm hungry, Lee."
Yeah.
So,
hungry.
I'm hungry.
Not hungry like for fair food.
Yeah, like hippos, we're talking. Hungry.
Yeah.
Next thing we see, Lee's alone. He's drinking what appears to be an orange juice. He's just sitting there, just sipping on it. And he sees this carny who's got a carnival game going on, and he's kind of being an ass to a bunch of kids and stuff. Yeah. And appears he might be gay. Yeah. We're not for sure. The shirt may have given it away, plus some of his tendencies. Hey,
this is the movie. This is not
Carney.
us.
The Carney wants to be, yeah, they are portraying this as this way.
Yes.
To which at this point, Lee is also portraying himself to be this way.
Yeah.
To get this guy.
Yeah.
This prey. So we are not, I mean, I'm all for it. Just don't get eaten.
Yeah.
At least not in that way.
Yeah.
Get eaten all you want, just not in this way. So Lee approaches him. The carny's kind of eyeing him and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And he does the carnival game, wins one of them. They're having some flirtatious banter back and forth. And he's like, so what's there to do around here, you know, after closing time? He's like, you know, besides me, you know, type thing. He's like, I close up at 11 if you want to, you know, I got some weed and all that. He's like, yeah, man. Okay. So anyway, they plan to hook up. We see Marin and Lee then next sitting in the truck listening to the tape together. And he's like, he's wrong, you know, he's wrong. Basically about what the dad was saying. And he's like, so what happened to your dad? Or no, she asks Lee, what happened to your dad? And he's like, I don't want to talk about it type thing. So then in the headlights, we see the carny show up. Lee gets out. Marin's hiding in the truck. Some flirtation going on, some little horseplay. And then they go off into the cornfield.
Yeah.
The cornhole field, and Marin goes to find him, and we hear some noises.
Lee is really committing to this bit.
He is. To the point where he's almost fully naked, and we definitely know the other guy is. He's really reaching around to make this play out, and right before we get the climax of the scene, the guy. This is what sucks. At least let the guy finish before you kill him. But it's like I'm about ready to kills him,
slices his throat.
It was like the guy was about to, and then ruins it for him. It's just like,
come on.
I was like, at least come on. Not literally.
No.
So yeah, it's feeding time. So the guy goes down, not literally. And Lee starts eating on him, on his nipple too, which was weird. And then I found it really, really weird. He immediately goes for the guy's nipple.
Yeah.
And then Marin comes over and they're both eating. So next thing we see, they're like driving the carny's car back to his house, which is their MO, because they're going to find out what the guy has there, if there's anything worth taking, clean up, blah, blah, blah. Marin's like, I'm going to go scan the house real quick. She runs down the road. They're on a country road, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
We see that the guy, there's a woman holding a baby inside on the phone, freaking out about where her husband is.
Yeah.
We find out the carny's married, has kids.
Yep. And they're like, he had no indication. He didn't have like photos in his wallet. He didn't have a wedding ring on.
No ring. Yeah. So. No photo. Now, when they pull down the visor, there's a picture of the wife and kid and all that sort of stuff. So she's like, he's married and he had kids. And he's like, I didn't know. There was no car seat. And she's like, we ruin lives. And he's like, we have to do it. You know, I didn't know, but it's something that we have to do. And she goes, what? We're going to have 60 to 70 years of this. And he's like, how dare you make this harder? So they're having their first fight.
Yeah.
This is not sitting holding hands in a slaughterhouse. this is now fight time. Honeymoon is over. She starts having dreams of her dad. And for some reason, the dad starts coughing out blood.
Yeah.
And you're like,
like regurgitating something out of his, something bloody, like I don't know what it was.
Like a fleshy something. And you're like, did dad eat mom?
Yeah.
Is that why the mom disappeared? Was he one of them too? Are we going to be Shyamalan? Was the dad just like so devout in his, I can't do this anymore. He knows what his daughter is. So at this point, you're just like, So, Marin then goes in. She's asking this clerk at a convenience store, I believe. I don't know. For a phone book. They find a listing. It could be her mom, maybe, but they're looking for this woman. They're looking for the Kern household. We find out.
Yeah.
They pull up to this house, and Marin's like, "Are you Barbara Kearns?" And the lady looks at her like suspiciously, and then tries to run into the house. And she's like, "Please, please, please!
Yeah,
I need to find." I believe her name was like Jolette. I think it's Jolette.
Her mom's name? I don't remember.
Well, Barbara Kearns was the we find out is the grandmother.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's like, "Where did mom meet dad?" He's just like, he didn't say. And she goes, he never really talked about her. I don't have any memories. And she's like, "Oh, well, he talked her into leaving college, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Well, where is she?" And she's like, "Well, your mother's no longer with us."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this could mean one of two things. And then at that point, I'm like, oh, no, she's dead.
Yeah.
And she's like, it was so much for hiding for one family. I'm sorry you had to be the child of all of it. And we find out the mom was adopted.
Yeah.
She was abandoned, left behind. Was it a sheriff's station?
I don't remember.
Dairy Queen? They're close. They're close to the same thing. A donut shop?
Yeah.
I know it was something. And she's like, "Did she ever hurt anyone?" She's like, "Stop it.
Yeah.
Don't ask those kinds of questions." That's rude,
she's like, did she ever hurt anyone? And this Barbara's like, "Why would you ask that?"
Yeah, why would you ask those kinds of
questions?
Marin's
like, "I bet she did. I don't know what you had to do to cover it up, but
yeah."
So it's like,
and she goes, then the grandmother's like, "Well, then why don't you just ask her yourself?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" And she's like, I said she was no longer with us. Doesn't mean she's dead." And you're like,
that is what that means, actually.
Yeah. And then we find out the mother's in a state hospital.
Yeah. She checked
in another town close by. She checked herself in. She was like, she was too much of a threat. So we find out what town the mother's in, and she's like, "We got to go." So her and Lee, they take off.
And we're in Minnesota now. I don't know if we mentioned that. We've crossed over state line.
We did not mention that, nor did I put that down. Yeah. So they're off to find the mother, the crazy mad-eating mother. They arrive at the hospital. Lee's like, "Do you want me to come in?" And she's like, "No." And I'm like, wow, okay. She's still really upset.
Yeah.
The nurse proceeds to tell Marin about that. What is that sound? I thought you were scrolling a mouse wheel for a while, and then I was like, no, this guy's just like really giving it to his computer.
One of my cats, I don't know.
Your cat is doing like construction in your home.
That's possible.
All right. So the nurse proceeds then to tell about how that Jolene, I believe her name was Jolene. Jolette. I could just look it up. I have it right here. Why don't I just look it up? The mother's name, because this is going to make me mad now. The mother's name was Janelle. Okay.
You were very close a couple times.
I was very, very close. I knew it had two letters the same and then two E's. That's all I remember. And it started with a J, which I had no clue was played by Chloe Sevigny. When I saw her, I was like, this lady looks really, really familiar. Yeah. And she's not like a big name in this movie at all. Very, very bit part.
No.
Because we only see her for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I like Chloe Sevigny. She's a great actress. She's just one of those underrated actresses that needs to be in a lot more stuff. But anyway, the nurse was telling how she was aggressive. She had done like a lot of self-harm, but that was a long time ago. She's been okay for a while and everything. So we go into the mother's room. Mom has no arms.
Yeah.
We find out that the self-harm was her arms.
Yeah. She basically had gnawed off her entire, both of her forearms.
So we assume.
Well, yeah. So
remember,
we assume.
we saw Dad spitting out some flesh. So we're like, oh, okay. And then Marin's like, I didn't come with Dad. I came alone. And the mom kind of calms down. So you're like, oh, okay. Maybe it is the dad. Maybe the mom was like freaking out because of what had happened, the trauma. So the nurse was like, what was her name again? Janelle. She's like, do you want me to give her the letter that you wrote? Because Janelle can't speak at this point.
Yeah. Well, and they mentioned like she can't talk, and the nurse just says it's because of the meds.
Yeah.
Right. But her mother isn't speaking.
So she's not speaking. So did you need to check on your cat? Is it okay?
I don't hear anything.
Sounds really?
Oh, you know what? I think she's right behind me. She's batting at my light.
Oh, I was like, is the cat like hacking something up?
I'm like looking around and I don't see her. It's because she's immediately like right behind me.
Oh my word. I was like, is it okay?
Yeah.
Is it going to live?
Was this the sound?
That was it.
Okay.
That was definitely it.
She's pawing at my light.
Just like, and it was funny because it was like only when I was talking.
Yeah.
When you would talk, it wouldn't do anything. And then I would talk, and then the cat was like, rah, rah. Yeah. And I was like, is it okay?
Yeah, that's funny. I'm like, I didn't see her, but yeah, she was.
I was like, that is quite,
right behind me.
That is quite the hairball, if that's the case. And I don't mind continuing to talk if you need to go like resuscitate your cat or something. So Marin then proceeds to read the letter that her mom had written 15 years prior, in case this day ever came. The mom's just staring at Marin like la, 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 throughout the whole thing, and we hear the mom's voice reading the letter.
Yeah, and it's basically
Marin's just scanning through it.
Like Marin's scanning through it. You hear the mom's voice, and her mom's voice is like, if you're here, it means that your dad broke his promise to me.
Yeah, your dad broke his promise, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. She's like, I hated this life. I couldn't go through it and blah, blah. And I don't want you to have to do the same. I'm sorry. And then at the same moment that the mom stops reading the letter in Marin's head, the mom jumps up and starts trying to bite Marin to kill her.
Yeah.
Like at the exact moment.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, at least how would the mom know when she finished? Maybe Marin's a slow reader.
Yeah.
Maybe she just got to the point where it's like, if you're reading this and then mom just preemptively jumps and never knows why.
I guess mom timed it really well, but
she really did.
She
read it over in her mind like 15 years.
How long would it take someone to read this? That said, though, this was really well crafted because, right when Marin finishes reading, right when you finish hearing, her mom, whatever.
Yeah. Janelle.
Jumps right
up.
Her
face changes
and she just lunges. So it was it was a very well crafted scene. I'll say that.
It was great. Marin's like freaking out. The nurse is trying to pull Janelle off of her and all that sort of stuff. Marin escapes. She gets to the back door. She's pounding on it. She can't get out because, patients can't get out through that door. So Lee has to let her out. She starts telling Lee about everything that happened. And he's like, look, she's like, I can't believe she was in there, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, look, you may not even be alive if she had stayed with your family.
Yeah.
Like you could be dead at this point. Like she could have eaten you.
Because it's probably important to note, like earlier in the film, Sully had said that his number one rule is he never eat an eater. Right.
Yeah.
But then like a little bit later, when she first meets Lee says everyone has their rules.
Yes, everybody has their own rules.
Yeah. Because like Marin had said, like you can't just take this guy's stuff. the guy that he had killed, and he's like, everyone has their rules, and this isn't one of mine. So so not everybody, would hold to that rule.
There's not a certain set of rules for eaters. It's everybody has their own line that they won't cross. Maybe. And which made the fact about Jake and Brad earlier that much more scary, because it's like, maybe these guys don't live by the same rules, so maybe they do eat the eaters, you don't know. So he's like, you might not even be here had she stayed. And she's not even mad about the situation with her mom necessarily. That she immediately goes, well, you killed a man with a family. And he's like, well, we have to do it. We can't survive. He goes, I don't like it either. She's like, well, I can't be with you anymore.
Because in his argument, which makes sense, is he's like, we don't have many options. You eat, you off yourself, or you lock yourself up like her.
Right? So she goes, well, I'm not going to be her. So she's driving, Lee's sleeping in the truck then at this point. So obviously they've at least made up enough to be like, let's at least drive to the next town. And she stops and she's like, I'm going to get gas. And he's like, all right. He's like, you've got the money. So she reaches down into her sock where she's been keeping the money. She leaves it on the dashboard, grabs her bag out of the back of the truck, and runs off. He wakes up, finds her gone. So he starts driving the town looking for her. Can't find her anywhere. We see that she's walking down the street. This van pulls down the road, and it pulls over into a gas station parking lot area and everything. And she comes walking up past it and everything. And we hear a familiar voice. This old man gets out, and it's Sully.
Sully's
back. He's been following her. He's been worried about her. He says. He's like, what about that? What about that pretty boy you've been you've been riding around with for the last couple of months or whatever? Because it's been months. It's been 2 months from what I remember. And he's been following her.
And she is appropriately creeped out.
She's like, why haven't you said anything before? Why haven't you said hi? And he's like, well, I've just been keeping my distance, type thing. And he's like, she's like, well, we parted ways. We didn't have the same. And he's like, well, you want to ride with old Sully for a while, type thing. And he's like, it's a hard, lonesome life. And she's like, well, to be honest with you, you're really creeping me out. And he goes, well, you be my, it's not like that. You be my daughter's age if I had one. She's like, oh, so is that what this is about, type thing? She goes, I don't trust you. It's been odd that you've been following me for 2 months, And he's like, F you, Missy. F you. You see you next Tuesday, type thing. And
it's funny too, because I'm like, this is the point where I'm like, now see, if this was a horror movie, she would be stupid enough to go with him.
but she's not.
No. She's straight up like, no, you're creeping me out. I'm not going with you.
And he's like, I dried off next to you. I've never done that with anybody else before. That means something, and she's freaking out at this point. And he slams the car door and just speeds away, spewing up rocks behind him. Just leaves. She proceeds to enter the diner, which is where they pulled up to. I guess it was a gas station / diner. She enters into the diner. We see a couple cops show up. She's like very suspicious about them. We see a police station across the street. She's considering, maybe should I just turn myself in? Maybe I should lock myself up, type thing.
Do you think that's what that's about?
I think she had that contemplation.
That makes
really
sense.
do.
Because this doesn't go anywhere, and so with the 2 cops come in, and it's made note of, and it's made note of she's across from a police station, but it never goes anywhere. So I'm like, what was the point of that?
I think she was considering at this point where she's at, either A, tell them about Sully.
Yeah.
B, if she tells them about Sully, she's telling them about herself.
Yeah.
And locking herself up. Or C, what she does is she gets the cassette tape out and destroys it, making no evidence.
Okay. That makes sense. Seeing the police made her realize that she had evidence on her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next thing we see, Lee's in a truck. It's evening. He's looking kind of despondent, just because I wanted to use that word. It appears like he's kind of fallen asleep in a way, and we hear noises like a car door opening and a struggle. There's flashbacks of him and Marin and killings from his past. Things probably from his hometown. Then he wakes up and he proceeds to go to a payphone and calls his sister, and he's like, "I'm coming home for good. I'm coming home," and she's excited.
Yeah.
Next thing we see, big bold letters. It says July. So we don't know where we're at. We just see July.
Yeah. And so now it has been like straight 2 months, right? Because, well, we don't know.
May.
Yeah, it was May when they were in Maryland, but we don't know when. Okay, yeah. We don't know, like, they were in Virginia after the first kill, and we don't know how long passed.
Maybe it's been a few weeks at that point.
Yeah.
But now we're in July. It's now been 2 months now. We see Marin standing outside of I believe it's either a convenience store or a diner of some sort. We see Kayla come walking out, which is the sister of Lee.
Yeah.
She's like, "Hey, Kayla, you remember me? I'm Marin. I'm Lee's friend. Do you know where he is?" And she's like, "He moved out by the lake."
Yeah.
Because I wondered why he stayed, but he was probably hoping that you'd show back up here.
Yeah.
So Kayla then proceeds to tell Marin about what had happened 4 years prior with the dad. How the dad was abusive.
Yeah, he was a drunk. He was abusive.
Yeah. Lee tells Kayla to go get the cops because the dad had beaten Kayla, beat Lee.
Yeah.
Lee got the jump on the dad. He says, "Go get the cops," all this sort of stuff. Lee then, when the cops showed up, the dad had left, or it was gone. Yeah. The car was gone. And Lee was covered in blood, but it was mostly his own blood.
Yeah.
So when they put him in jail, they had nothing to hold him on because it was his own blood. His story seemed to pan out.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I'm like, well, maybe the dad was an eater, and who knows? So Marin goes out to the lake, finds Lee, and she's like, "Let's go somewhere else." And he's like, "I'll go wherever you want." She's like, "Let's go west." It's like, okay, so much for this town. We're out. Peace out, Kayla. We're done.
Yeah, we're not staying after all.
Yeah, not staying after all. I broke my promise to you. So next thing we see is NE show up really, really big on the thing. It's Nebraska. And I'm like, wait a minute. I thought they were going west. They were in Michigan at one point. They were over in Indiana at one point. Nebraska is back east. And I'm like, oh, wait, they were in Kentucky at this point. So, yes, Nebraska is west to where they were at, but however, east from where they were at prior.
Well, Nebraska's west of Indiana, dude.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
All right, so they go farther west. I don't know my geography up that area. I know it's like Ohio, Wisconsin, other states.
Other states.
Other states. New York. Yeah. And I know Kentucky's like way over here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They have some truck trouble. He's like, well, we might have to sell the truck. And then they're on a hilltop. They're like, have all these memories in the truck and all this. They start talking about their memories. They're just having this flashbacks of good times while they're sitting on this hilltop.
Yeah.
And then Marin says, Kayla told me about what happened. And he goes, Kayla doesn't know the real story about what happened. He said, Dad tried to rip me open with his teeth.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, Dad was an eater.
Yep.
And he's like, it was the first time I ever smelled it on someone else. And she's like, well, what happened next? He's like, I knocked him out, put him in the car, took him to a barn, duct taped him so he couldn't, do anything, left him there for 3 days.
Yeah.
She goes, then what? He's like, then I ate him. And it felt great.
Ate him up. Yep.
Yeah, and it felt great. And he goes, I would have killed myself if it weren't for Kayla. And she's like, well, you protected the people that you loved. And he goes, you don't think I'm a bad person? And she's like, all I think is I love you.
Yeah.
And then we get crying and kissing, romantic music, and scenic landscape.
Yeah. And at this point, this is also the point where they're like, let's just go. Let's drive until this truck gives out.
Yeah.
And
he's like, where next?
Yeah.
She's like, anywhere.
Doesn't matter. Let's just keep driving. Yep.
And then she says, let's drive till the truck gives out and stay there like normal people.
Yeah.
And he goes, you want to be people? Let's be people. She goes, yeah, let's be them for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the new Twilight. We said that a while back about Halloween Ends, but this, people, this is the new Twilight. So they're eating people, eating their bloods and their guts.
I would argue that these characters have personalities, though.
These ones do. They really, really do. As opposed to the Halloween Ends one, which Halloween Ends was trending on Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
And people were like defending it. They were like, it was a great film. And I'm like, it wasn't Halloween.
It was a film.
It was definitely a film. Anyway, if you guys haven't checked out that episode of our show, make sure you guys check it out after you finish this one.
Yeah.
Because why not? Make sure that you like and subscribe while you're there. I had to throw that in.
Yeah.
So they're now in Michigan. It's August. Marin has a job at a bookstore by the college. They're living normal lives, it appears.
Yeah.
Marin shows up at their home, their apartment. And we see that, because there's a montage of them just living normal life. You know, Lee doesn't have a job, it appears, but Marin does. I guess she's the gatherer, he's the hunter. I don't know. She shows up at the home. She sees this bag. It appears that things are kind of cleaned up, kind of almost like the way that it was when her dad left. It almost has that same vibe to it. Everything's very clean. It looks like maybe someone's dipped out and there's a bag sitting there with stuff. And it's like, wow, this is almost the same as when the dad left.
Yeah.
There's no Lee at the house. And all of a sudden somebody grabs her from behind and it's, don't scream, little lady. We don't scream at friends.
Yep. Sully has tracked her down again.
Yeah. Where's your cutie pie? He's like, ever since I drove away from you, nothing has felt right. I have unfinished business. And I'm like, he wants to jump her bones and all.
Yeah. It does. And I'm like, it's weird because it does seem that way at times, but it's also just like, he's also just kind of weird. And
he's just, weird, strange, eccentric. Creepo dude. And it may not even be a matter of he's like trying to be creepy. He just is.
Yeah.
He might not want to like get it on with the Maron. He's like, I don't mind how much you like Sully. What I mind is how much you know about him.
Yeah.
And she's like, stop talking about yourself in the third person.
Yeah.
She keeps saying that. Why do you talk about yourself in the third person?
Yeah.
And like Sully's laying on top of her and like petting her and caressing her head. And he goes, I just want to be with someone who understood.
Yeah.
And he's saying this all like in the past tense. Like, this is not going to end well right now.
Yeah.
Either she is going with him or she's not going anywhere. Like, he's going to break his own rule, possibly.
Yeah.
And Lee, we see Lee then in the background coming into the house quietly, wearing a blouse. Now at this point, I'm like, it's now a horror film. It is. It's a blouse, dude. I mean, it was like, it came down to about like in this area and then just kind of blossomed out to this. Go back and watch if you ever go to watch this movie again. He's wearing a blouse, and which I guess that's the new thing. He's gender fluid, maybe. Sully's like, I just want to sleep at night, and then he smells Lee.
Yeah,
which he didn't smell him prior to this. The guy has a keen sense of smell. Doesn't smell him.
Yeah. I think it's just because he was so focused on Marin.
Possibly. Yeah. Lee then takes because it appears that he had been out shopping, which explains the blouse. He got things a lot cheaper that way. He takes the plastic bag from where the groceries were in and puts it over Sully's head and starts like suffocating him.
Yeah.
And then Sully grabs the knife because she had mentioned at one point why Sully had carried a knife and all this sort of stuff. He's like, oh, it's for protection. All this. Hey, he stabs Lee with it right here in the chest. Then Marin grabs the knife from Sully and starts stabbing him repeatedly. And then everything goes quiet and we hear birds chirping. Outside. Super quiet. Yeah. No intense music, no nothing anymore. And then we're right back into the room and the killing's still going on and suspenseful music happens. I was like, that was a weird transition, but very artsy. They drag Sully across the room with a blood trail. There's just blood everywhere. They drag him into the bathtub.
For some reason.
What?
For some reason.
Well, maybe to contain a lot of the blood. So Lee's still got a hold of him from behind, still like choking him out, and the bag's still over his face. She reaches into one of the stab wounds of Sully and starts pulling like his organs out through this hole.
I couldn't really tell. I couldn't tell what she pulled out, but
probably pancreas, maybe a intestine. But she has grabbed a hold of something and she's pulling it out. Sully then rips the plastic bag open, a la Terrifier. Yeah. No. Was that Terrifier or was that Halloween Ends? Which was the one where they put the bag over the head and then they rip it open and it's like, oh, that was Terrifier.
Oh yeah, that was the first Terrifier. Was the first one.
Yeah. But then he dies. Sully dies anyway.
Yeah.
Blood everywhere. She then finds the rope of hair. For some reason, she goes through his bag and finds the rope of hair.
Yeah.
I don't know why. You found something interesting about this after in the forum.
So I didn't really understand why she went for this anyway. She knows what's in the bag.
It makes no sense in where the movie is edited at this point we are now seeing.
Yeah. But she goes and she goes to his bag and she pulls out the hair, and I did not catch this, and I don't see how this is possible to catch, but according to like the synopsis I read, she notices that Kayla's hair has been added to the rope.
And see, the only way that I could see that it would be noticed, and I did not catch it, and obviously you did not catch it either, is doesn't Kayla wear like barrettes in her hair? Like little clips?
And maybe she had it, was it like, I know she was blonde, but did she have like color in it, or was that?
I'm colorblind.
I don't even know. Oh yeah.
I don't know. But I thought that maybe she had some little clips in her hair. And if I ever go back to watch again, that's something I want to look for and check to see if those little clips are in the hair. And that's what gives it away.
Maybe.
But as of this point, and even up until the end of the movie or ever, it is never explained. No. However, if that was the case, to have her, it needed to be explained to us.
Yeah. Because I did not catch
it. I'll come back to this in a little while, why it should have been explained, because it makes more sense for this next section possibly to happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, she finds the hair and all that sort of stuff. Lee says he could smell Sully from 2 blocks away.
Oh, yeah.
Lee slides down the wall, blood going down the wall from his wounds. She's like, oh, he punctured your lung. I'm hearing air and all this. He's like, we gotta get to the hospital and all this. And he's like, am I bad? Am I bad? She's like, we can't go to the hospital. We can't call an ambulance. We can't do, we got to get out of here. And he's like, am I bad? I don't feel right. And you could tell he's dying.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want you to eat me, Marin.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? No. And he goes, you need to eat me, bones and all. He's like, you need to feed anyway. please do this. Please do this.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I can't. And he's like, please. Which, okay, at this point, it would have made sense if they had found out it was Kayla's hair.
Yeah.
That's when he slides down the wall, because not only is he injured, he's also found that the only reason that he had for living for a long time was his sister was still alive. Now she's dead. He's like, I don't want to hold on anymore. So that's why it would make sense if it was explained to us,
I guess. But what about Marin?
Yeah,
I mean,
screw Marin.
My sister's dead.
Yeah, my sister's dead. Screw Marin.
But
anyway,
I didn't think it was clear, because I did not catch it. When I read that in the synopsis, I was like, what?
Yeah. And I would love to go back and find it out. Just there's certain aspects of this that I would like to go in and piece together, but that's an interesting one for me.
Yeah.
So he's like, you need to feed, please. And then the music starts going. You don't hear their voices anymore. They're talking back and forth, but you don't hear them. They start kissing goodbye. Basically, you can tell they're crying, they're kissing, they love each other and all this. And then she like clamps on to where he had been stabbed and starts eating him alive.
Yeah.
Like, he's not dead yet. She is eating him alive. Music's still playing.
And like, he's screaming, but he's also like holding her head there so that she'll keep doing it. And next thing we see, the room's all cleaned up, no blood. She's left. We get a flashback to them sitting on that hill together where they were reminiscing about the truck and blah, 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 looking out at the landscape. Oh, is that okay? Well, because obviously I knew.
Naked.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that this wasn't happening now, but I didn't catch that it was a flashback. I'm like, is she just like imagining, but
dragons. And they're naked. We get Chalamet naked. We get side boob naked. Credits. It's over.
And I mean, hey,
that's the film.
No matter what the rest of the film was like, your last shot is side boob.
Side boob and landscape.
Yeah.
And it's zooming in. It's like a crane shot or a drone, coming in closer and closer, and then just credits. Yeah. No talking.
Nope.
Just sullen music. Credits.
Yep.
Drum roll, but I'll do a quiet drum roll this week since we left off on that. We'll pat a little side boob and drum roll. What are your thoughts on this film, sir?
This, I liked this film, and I will never watch it again.
Okay.
That's my thoughts on it. This was a very, very slow burn movie.
Yes.
So slow that sometimes you wonder if it's still burning. Right?
You're checking the sterno. You're like, is this thing on?
But the thing is, I like that sort of thing every now and then.
Yeah.
This isn't the sort of thing like I could watch week after week, but now and then I like a movie that maybe takes a while to get going and doesn't necessarily go where you think it's going to go. As a horror adjacent film, and especially as one that I think kind of takes...
Disclaimer real quick. We did not go into this film assuming that it was horror adjacent. I know we've talked many times about horror adjacent type things, like even we were talking about Don't Worry Darling and things like that, and some other films that could be horror adjacent. You and at least me, I can't speak for you entirely, but I believe that we both went into this film believing that there was more horror element.
Yeah.
Than what was in the film.
And I guess we should also clarify. I mean, yes, this is described as horror in some aspects. And so
it's on the top 15 bloody, disgusting best horror movies of the year.
So I hate to say,
that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring that list up too.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not going to try to like gatekeep what is and isn't horror.
Exactly.
But because obviously there are a ton of different genres and there's a bunch of different ways to approach horror. And I think this is perfectly fine as one. It's just you're not getting, you're not getting something like overly supernatural or scary or spooky.
Yeah,
and like I said, I think the spookiest part of this movie was with Brad and what's his name? Yeah, the rednecks. I mean, because I, like you said, I honestly, genuinely thought that, wow, this is gonna go
dark. Yeah,
and it didn't. And I think that's fine. I did ultimately enjoy this movie. It's just not. I just have no desire to see it again. I don't regret watching it. I just have no desire to see it again.
Yeah,
I think it's good for what it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
Here's my take on the film. I thought it was an incredible film.
Yeah.
I love independent films.
Mm-hmm.
This to me felt like a good, solid independent film.
Yeah. I agree.
For it to be in the horror genre, I wouldn't put it there. I think it is a romanticized telling of something that could be construed as people with horrific lives.
Yeah.
But it is a romanticized telling from their perspective.
Yeah.
Almost
like humanizing the monsters, which I think was a great take.
I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
I will definitely watch this film again.
Okay.
Not going into it thinking about it being a horror film. This is a movie that if somebody wants to tell somebody just a great, solid film, but it does have some really disturbing elements in it at times, this is it, man. This is to me one of the top films that I've watched this year. As far as it being horror, I would not classify it as horror.
No.
And like I said, or like you said, I'm not a gatekeeper of horror.
Right.
I only have a podcast where I talk about it. So
my thing is, even though I wouldn't necessarily classify this, I can see why the horror label is applied to it. It's just not it's not the first word I would use to describe the movie, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. To me, it's a romantic road trip love story.
Yeah.
With dark elements.
Yeah. And it's enough so that I'm perfectly fine with it being an episode of this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, same with me. I loved the film. Yeah. I will watch it again. I will have others watch it with me as well.
Yeah.
It's a good film. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So my take on it is I give it a definite thumbs up. I give it a definite go watch. Don't go into it thinking that you're going to get a horror film as your brain has a tendency to think of it as.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's all I would say about it.
Yep.
But anyway, with that being said, though, you guys can check it out on Amazon Prime, I believe. Or is it on Amazon Prime yet? Because I know it's still in a lot of theaters. So
I don't know if it's hit streaming.
It hit streaming. It hit streaming because my kid the other day was like, "Look at that! It's called Bones and All," and I was like, "Yeah." So it's on Amazon Prime. Anyway, I was like, "Yeah, that's the movie that Daddy had to watch the other day for that I had to go watch the other day for the thing." And
yeah,
he's like, "Oh, okay." So he's like, "That looks weird," and I'm like, "Yeah, it was." But it was a great movie. It's not horror though. At least in my mind. But anyway, check it out on Amazon Prime or wherever you guys stream from. I believe it's on Apple too. I'm sure Google somewhere. Anyway, check it out. It's not on Netflix or Hulu or anything like that as of right now. It'll probably hit. I could see this one hitting Paramount. I don't know why. I could see it hitting there. I don't know why, but I could. Anyway, but for some films that you might consider horror, we're going to bring up a list of films that are coming out in the next few weeks, and they should be popping up here on the screen right about now. These are films that are going to be coming out into theaters or on some form of streaming or even physical copies that you guys can check out. Some of these we may be reviewing here in the short future. If there's any on the list that you guys definitely want to see, make sure to put them in the comments down below. Also, make sure to hit like and subscribe while you guys are down there, and follow us on social media at Casters of Horror, pretty much on every platform at this point.
Yep.
So anyway, next thing we like to do quickly before we wrap everything up, we have a segment that we like to call Stories Horrifying Those on This Astral Plane. Shaking right there. This is a story coming out of the good old state of Arizona. Sir, you've heard of Skinwalker Ranch, haven't you?
Yes.
In Utah. It is a ranch that is known to, or claimed to have portals to other realms. A lot of paranormal activity around this place. Well, there is a place in Arizona. It is called the Stardust Ranch in Rainbow Valley. For the last 20 years, the couple that has lived on this ranch has claimed to have had not only aliens, but also ghosts in the home and on the ranch, horse mutilations, unlike the cow mutilations. But the odd part is John Edmonds, who is the owner of the home, has claimed that he has killed over 18 gray aliens who have tried to attack his wife with a katana.
Well, then he should have plenty of evidence to present.
Well, here's the thing that he says. If he does not take the heads of them, they disappear. However, some of the DNA was still on the katana. He did send the DNA to Dr. W.C. Levengood in Michigan. But before the doctor was able to expose the smoking gun, if you will, to prove that aliens have been among us, the doctor met his untimely, unfortunate death by slipping in his laboratory, hitting his head and dying, and somehow all evidence was removed from the lab.
Wow.
There's also been claims that the wife was levitated out of the bed, taken down the hallway outside the front door, and started to go up into the ship, to which Mr. Edmonds then proceeded to follow her out with an AR and shot at the spaceship until they let her go. Wow. Ghost Adventures has even done an episode on this place. Among the aliens, the little gray men, there's also apparitions of ghosts in the area from previous suicides in the home, dealing with the aliens as well. People couldn't take it and have killed themselves in the home. So anyway, if you guys want to check out some interesting stories, check out the Stardust Ranch.
So I wonder, so we have the aliens and we have ghosts. Are there any ghosts of the aliens that he's killed?
That is undetermined. When Ghost Adventures actually went out there, one of the voices that they got, they did get some, cognitive, intelligent responses to some of their questions.
Yeah.
And one of the things said that they were a brown mist, but they also had the words plant come through. According to John Edmonds, the owner of the home, he said that the doctor from the Michigan State College, the professor or whatever, said that the DNA was part something not of this world and part chlorophyll, plant-based.
Yeah.
So what they are wondering is if somehow these mist whatever things, these brown mists that they're seeing there around the home, have gotten together with these plant-based plants and have taken form of these grays. So wow,
that is the most convoluted alien story I've ever heard.
Yeah. So I this one excited me because I'm really big into the Skinwalker Ranch stuff.
Yeah.
So now that there's two places that have to deal with this, check it out. Check it out. This is ongoing. They're still trying to figure out what's going on there. But this is the real world, people. This astral plane.
Right.
But anyway, before we close things out, what we like to do every week is do a little bit of pick or pass. Unless you guys have a better name for it, make sure to leave a like and comment and hit that little bell while you're down there. Make sure to subscribe at the same time if you guys are going to leave a comment on what we should change the name to. Otherwise, as of right now, we're calling it pick or pass because these are items that we've seen in the last week or so that we either pick or we tell you to pass on. Sir, I'm going to let you start because, man, have I talked a lot on this episode.
Well, so for about 10 years as my kid was growing up, every year for his birthday, I would build him a cardboard box maze in one of our extra rooms.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a fun thing. I enjoyed doing it. He enjoyed running through it. And so that got me thinking about this short film that I have actually watched before. It's been a while ago, but I checked it out again recently. It's called Box Fort.
Box Fort. Interesting.
And it's about some...
this is going to be fun for me to find a poster for, I bet.
It's about some
I'm
sisters.
Literally just going to put a box.
It's about some sisters who, while their parents are away one weekend, they decide to build a box fort. But then some weird things start happening around the house, and maybe some things start disappearing and some little oddball occurrences, and now they have to wonder if maybe someone or something has taken up residence in their little box fort.
Ooh, is it a portal? A portal to the other plane?
So, yeah, this is a short film. It's only about 15 minutes long, so it's
nice.
It's on YouTube, so we can link to that like we do sometimes.
Sometimes.
But yeah, I'd say it's worth checking out. I enjoyed it.
You have access to all of our comments. If I miss the links, sir, you are more than welcome to add them on.
I have, and I will if I remember.
There you go. If you guys haven't checked out some of the artwork for the podcasts, the audio versions of these episodes, which do come out every Tuesday, Shane's been having a little bit of fun with some of that artwork on the podcast.
I have.
Yeah. So I always try to find out where our logo is going to pop up on the poster. So, but yeah, you do the artwork for the audio versions, and I do the artwork for the video.
Yeah.
But we have fun doing it. Cool. So Box Fort, worth checking out. Where can we watch that? YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
Just like our channel is, which you can like and subscribe to.
Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell. Yeah. Have we plugged our merch yet?
Yeah.
No, because we don't have any yet.
No.
But when we do, make sure to like and subscribe so you can find out when we drop that merch.
Right.
This is for you, YouTube. Anyway, I actually have a short film for this week.
All right.
Believe it or not. This one came across my radar. I had heard about it on a bunch of different lists this year, that it's a definite worth checking out. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch it. So anyway, the short film is called Piggy. It is about a Hispanic woman who is quite large. And she gets harassed by some friends and locals and things like that for her weight. And then people end up missing because of it. That's all I'm going to say about it, because it is definitely worth checking out. You can check it out on, I believe it was, is it Aster? Is that the one that I've been plugging a lot lately?
Alter?
Alter, thank you. Jolette, Janelle, Aster, Alter. So you see where my brain's at. Yeah, it is on Alter, which you guys can check out a bunch of short films at. Really, really good stuff on there.
I think this got made into a full-length movie, didn't it?
It did, which brings up next week, sir.
Oh, okay.
Next week, we are going to be reviewing the full-length film, Piggy.
Okay.
Me watching this short film made me want to see the full length.
Really?
Bad.
Okay.
So next week we will be reviewing the critically acclaimed Sundance Film Award-winning Piggy. So make sure you guys tune in for next week's episode. We will be reading along with the subtitles. So anyway, check out next week's episode where we're talking about Piggy, the remake. They took this short film and just expanded it.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited about this one. This is going to be a good episode, man. If it's anything like the short film, which I've heard, it takes it far and beyond.
Okay. I've heard good things about the short film.
It's worth checking out.
So.
Yeah, I'm hearing really, really good things about the full length. So
cool.
Anyway, next week we'll be reviewing Piggy. So make sure you guys check it out. How best can you check it out? Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe. I'm going to say it one more time.
That's right.
Make sure to hit that notification bell so you guys can find out when that next episode drops. Also, make sure every Tuesday, if you are not able to watch this show, make sure you guys also check out the audio version of it, available wherever you guys get your podcasts. So we're on everything, people. Yep. We are taking over your world. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next week, I'm Chris Mess.
I'm Shane.
And get the hell out of here. We'll see you guys. Yeah.